No further questions in the press box.
Nothing else. Let's come back downstairs. Go ahead, Steve, and then we'll go to Randy.
Steve Richards with PRN. Congratulations, guys. Kurt, how critical, and for Steve, how critical is this race today as far as the points are concerned? Because you were minus 28 coming in. Now you're only minus 9. What does this do to for the momentum of the team at this particular time to maybe carry you over toward the latter part of the chase, perhaps?
Well, it's nice to get a solid finish today. I mean, we weren't down by no means after last week. We knew we have a long journey ahead of us. Today is just awesome. I mean, this is sweet. The guys are all pumped up. They know how to do their jobs. They're all tied together right at the belt loops. And everybody is so positive with the way they feel about their position and the way that Steve is leading these guys that we're not looking back, but yet we're not looking too far ahead because this is a long chase.
Let's go Randy and then to David. Go ahead, Randy. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
Go ahead.
No, I just think that, we were 28 points back, right, but if we took one race to do that, and we knew that if there was 3 guys that got out there, 17 to 28 points ahead of us, if they had one race, they missed it a little bit, that we could be right back in this thing. But the thing about it is it brought a whole group of people back into it, not just us. It brought that whole bunch that was from 5th on back. It brought us all back into this thing. So it's pretty cool the way that's worked out. But we knew if we came in here and had a solid week, and, Kurt preached it all week, we just need a smooth race here. And that's what our game plan was, to have a smooth race and race our own race. And we did that, and it worked out for us.
Let's go Randy, and then we'll go to David, and then to Dustin.
Hey, Kurt. Randy Kovitz, Kansas City Star. I've got a silly question and then a serious one. The silly one is, something in that barbecue you had in Kansas City last week, and you think you'll go back to Jack Stack when you get there this weekend?
Oh, it's definitely a good mojo all the way around. I did a Kansas City Winter Circle appearance this week and went to Jack Stack's Barbecue 101 and got my hands dirty, got all my hair burned off my right arm grilling, and those guys were a lot of fun to work with, and that's just that good feeling when you're out there trying to promote a track and promote ticket sales. It just hopefully it all comes around.
My next question is, you talked about good tracks coming up for you. Well, Dover and Kansas really haven't been good tracks for you. The Phoenix and Martinsville and Charlotte and some of those you've got wins at all, Texas. So how important was it to kind of get a monkey off your back here, and now you're looking at another track where you averaged like 18th or something over the years?
You know what's funny is I haven't told Steve this. He'll hear it for the first time right now. Is tracks that we've notoriously struggled on, we've been doing really well. Tracks that we're expecting to do well on, we struggle. So Kansas, I don't know. I usually struggle there. So that's the way we're going to look at it.
Today, because you've struggled here, does that add to that mojo you think that you could?
It's a good feel to conquer a track that I've had trouble sealing the deal on. We've been fast, like Steve has said. We've been in the mix. And it's great to conquer a racetrack and to get a win at a place that I've never won before.
Let's go to David Newton. Raise your hand. We'll go to David, Dustin, Jerry, and Skip.
David Newton, ESPN.com. Kurt, can you kind of talk about the way you and Jimmy raced each other there on those restarts, and is that an example that you two have kind of put the differences you had after Richmond behind you?
It was on my mind, but it wasn't, because I had tunnel vision for Victory Lane today, and it didn't matter who we had to drive around, through, and out strategy. I mean, Steve was on it on the pit box. It gave me a great confidence grabbing gears and shifting up through on those restarts. We took them on the outside. We took them on the inside. And we drove our Shell Pennzoil Dodge to Victory Lane. And it's sweet. I mean, it's sweet beating your arch nemesis, but we've got such a long way to go in this chase that's what we're really focused on.
Dustin
Long, Landmark Newspapers. Kurt, with this new point system, everything's bunched up so much more. In the years past, everybody's talked about how pressure-filled the chase is, but when the points seem so much closer, how do you look at it? How do you gauge it? How do you kind of get a mental release in between races?
For me, it is still the same system. It's based off consistency. And you can look at 9 points with the old system. That would be right around 36 to 40 with the old system. So 36 points before felt just the same as what 9 does now. That's the way I'm looking at it. And yet there's still just so many more weeks that you hope that there's not 12 guys that are mathematically eligible when they go to Homestead. In years past, the most we've ever had was 5. So points are tight. It's just still, though, this is we've only got 3 races out of 10. There's still a long way to go. That's the way I look at it.
That said, you have that approach, but how do you keep your team like that? Or certainly everybody will probably be asking you questions. Hey, you're only 9 points out. They'll see it as 9, not as 36-40, and look at the guys behind you, 3 or 4 points back and think it's so much closer than maybe it is. How do you do that through, maintain that with your team? And obviously you're going to face questions because they're going to say you're that close to it.
I've been in this position before, and there's still plenty of weeks left. I've gone into Atlanta with 3 races to go with a 90-point lead in the past, and you look at it as it's 0. You race every race to beat as many chasers as you can, and you can't get caught up if you're behind or ahead until you go to Homestead. That's when they hand you your deck of cards at Homestead. All right, do I have a good hand, or am I working from behind? And then you react.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Kurt, Jerry Jordan with the Examiner newspaper. You guys are obviously happy right now, but around lap 190, you were very frustrated, came over your radio talking about being a broken record and the car not handling. How do you keep it together and then go with that emotional swing between then and now and keeping the car focused to go to the front?
Well, if anybody knows me by now, talking on the radio is one thing and driving the race car is another. And staying focused, staying after it, that's what I always do. And you rely on your guys to bust off those great pit stops, make good adjustments. And, yes, halfway is always a struggle for us with the track rubbered in. Today we came out on top. Maybe we'll find a pattern now.
Go ahead, Skip.
Skip Clayton, ABC and WBCB. Kurt, what would it mean not only to give Roger Penske his first championship in the Sprint Cup Series, but maybe Will Power wins the IRL? What would it mean for Penske to have 2 championships in one season? Have you thought about that?
No, we're not going to think about it, but it would mean a tremendous amount. One of the main reasons why I came here to Penske Racing was to deliver the first championship on the NASCAR side in the Sprint Cup Series. But we're only 3 races in. We stay focused each and every week like we have to, and with Will Power on the open wheel side, we wish him the best, and it's because we have the best equipment. We have a great system, and we all have to thank Roger Penske.
Let's go, Vince, and then we'll go back in the back to Jim and then back to Joe. Go ahead, Vince.
Vince Bonfigley, WNJC Radio. Kurt, does this seem like a more competitive chase than it has in years past?
I tell you, it's hard to really put one word on it, but I would say it's a slippery chase because you can slip just one little bit, and the next thing you know, you're fighting from behind. So you just don't want those out-of-the-ordinary things to happen. And I heard a heartbreak today with my teammate Keselowski with losing his power steering. Those are those little moments that you hate throughout a chase run. And this year, everybody's in the mix. It's still the same real point system. Consistency's going to win it, and we're only 3 weeks in.
Go ahead, Jim.
Jim Uttershaw, Observer for Steve, and if Kurt wants to answer, earlier this season, you guys entered the chase with 1 win, much like Jimmy Johnson. But you, I think, were the only team that remained in the top 10 in points, I think, throughout the entire first 26 races. So my question is, entering the chase, did you believe you had, even if you had 1 or 0 wins, did you still think that you had a team that was capable of being in contention for the championship?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, that comes from having a group of guys that are willing to do anything and anything you ask of them, and that we do have that group. And were we in this position at the first of the year, midway through the season? No. I think that we've made changes in the organization. I think we've made changes in our race cars. I think we've made changes all through to put us in a position. You see the results from the 2-car. It's the same. The organization has changed a good bit, and we made some changes, and you've got a group of guys back there in that shop that are willing to bust their tails for you and give you what you're asking for now, and I think that's made the biggest difference in it. And but the group of guys that work on this 22 car, they, like Kurt said earlier, they're joined at the hip, and they're a good group, and they'll work good together. They'll do anything for you. All you got to do is tell them, and they get after it.
Yeah, just to quick add to that. All year long, we've been a consistent team, and we've found ourselves in the top 10 in points. the quick analogy would be like we can go 12 rounds with anybody. We're going to go for that TKO at the end or a decision, so to speak. But today we threw down a knockdown, and it's great to bring home a victory. But this year our model and our strengths have been good qualifying and just running consistent.
Go ahead, Joe.
Joe Menzer again at NASCAR.com. Hey, Kurt, I guess you weren't surprised. Despite some of the talk that Jimmy was out of it, did you find that kind of comical? And you weren't surprised to see your arch nemesis up there with you. And what did it mean to be able to get him on those final 2 restarts? Just because he's a defending champion and all that.
I loved all the stories. Keep it going on the 48 being out of it, because that only motivates those guys. They're strong. They always will be. A 5-time champion just doesn't happen by accident. Schackenhaus is a great leader. Hendrick is a great program. And Johnson is a very true competitor. And to beat him today, to come out on top, this is a nice feather in the cap. But we know we still need to continue 6 races from now to still be the strongest car, and then to go out there on that final weekend to put down the best week that we can. And Homestead will be exciting this year, to say the least.
Anything else for Kurt or Steve? Guys, congratulations on this win today, and best of luck next week at Kansas.